Good evening, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode of A Word with Pastor Webb. I'm your host, Pastor Webb, and we have a very special guest this evening. We have Fentrice Driskell, the Florida House of Representatives, District 63. Please help me to salute and celebrate my friend and sister. How you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, Pastor Webb. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to my show. Any updates? How life treating you?
You know, life is good. Life is good. We're all going through really tough times right now with COVID-19, and I know there's been a lot of heartache and loss. I'm just very grateful that I still have my family and they have their health. Everybody's been getting vaccinated, and so God has been very good in that respect.
Perfect. How was your drive?
My drive over was great.
Okay. No traffic, no.
It wasn't too bad. Now, there was traffic because it's a beautiful day in Tampa Bay, right? And everybody is out. But, you know, anytime I get to come and fellowship with you and see you, it's worth it. So don't worry about that traffic.
Awesome. Okay. What's your story? Tell me how you grew up.
Yes. So I grew up in Lakeland, so over in Polk County. I always like to say I'm fairly local to Tampa. And I grew up in a working family. Like, my mom taught public school for over 35 years. My dad worked for Publix, like so many people in Lakeland do. I have 3 sisters, one older, 2 younger. We all went to public high school or public school all of our careers. I have a sister who's a teacher in Lakeland, one who's an engineer in Alabama, and another who's a writer in Atlanta. Our parents always push the work ethic, though, right? Like, you have to work hard in life. Nothing is going to be given to you. They emphasize the importance of education. So that was always my focus. And that's what allowed me to achieve many of my dreams in life.
Okay. Would you say rich, poor, Ray coming up, medium family?
I mean, working class family. You know, we always had enough. We knew how to do what we had to do to get by. My dad would work extra jobs. I mean, whether it was mowing lawns or he worked sometimes as a tax preparer. That man sold water purifiers door to door. I'm not even joking. Whatever he had to do to take care of his family, he did. I've been working since I was 16 and could have a job. So, you know, we come from a very hardworking family.
All right, perfect. Give me 3 words that best describes who you are and why.
I knew you were going to ask me this, and I do believe I'm probably like the only politician who does not like talking about myself. So I asked some friends and family, like, if y'all had to describe me, what would you say? And what they said, and it's really sweet and humbling, they said brilliant, humble, and kind. And when I asked them why, they said brilliant because I do work hard. I worked hard in school. I was a nerd. I graduated top of my class. You know, I went to Harvard for college. Humble because that kind of like what I'm telling you, to me, it's awkward to talk about myself. I prefer just to let my work speak for itself. And kind. I do believe that you should treat everybody the way you would want to be treated.
Amen. Tell me about your college experience at Harvard and Georgetown Law School.
Right. So Harvard was a magnificent place for me to be. And you can imagine, right? I'm coming from Polk County, Florida, going up to Cambridge, which is just right outside of Boston. It was shock on a lot of levels. Not to mention it was super cold, but I got to attend school with people from all over the world who were so smart. It was a great experience. I got to be president of the student government, the first Black student elected to do that, so I made a little history there. At Harvard. And then Georgetown was also great, being in Washington, D.C. for law school, and I'm somebody who really loves politics, so, you know, being there, it was just always something to do and see. I got to go to this fundraiser for President Barack Obama back when he was running for U.S. Senate and actually meet him there. So, you know, that would not have happened anywhere else but D.C.
So how did that work? You left Polk County, you was a valedictorian for high school, went to Harvard, became the student body president, and you are Black. How did they treat you? Did they? Well,
you know, not only was I Black as president, but my vice president was Black as well.
So yeah, took over.
I feel like they had never seen anything like this, right? It's like, what is happening on Harvard's campus? So we made history, but, you know, kidding aside, the campus itself is actually very diverse. The student body is. So we were making history, but we were well supported. It was a challenging time though, because I don't think we were, how would I put it, like the favorite to win. I think that. You know, there probably was some implicit bias that was going on there that it's like, how did she do this? I'm, like I told you, I'm a hard worker. So, you know, from day one when I joined the student government, I was a hard worker and I led a committee. And so I was well prepared to do the job, and it was all right.
Awesome. What would you tell a young person who wants to go into politics? What is the pros and cons of going into politics?
Sure. Well, I would, the pro is that you get to be of service to your community. I mean, it is such an amazing and humbling experience when somebody calls your office and says, you know, hey, I'm having a problem with my utility company. Can you help me? And I'm able to call the utility company and get somebody on the line and help them. Or somebody has an unemployment claim and I can get the secretary of the Department of Economic Opportunity on the line and fix it. It is amazing to be of service. What I would tell young people, though, is that you can find out, there are ways where you can test it to see if it's for you. Volunteer for a campaign.
Right.
You know, get involved at the local level so you can see if it's something that you might want to do. Shadow under somebody and learn and see if that's a trajectory you want for your life.
All right. So the day when you actually won the seat, how did you feel? Did it make you feel like, I'm powerful now? Yeah.
No, you know what happens? First of all, you're exhausted because you know you've left it all on the battlefield. And then second, if I'm honest, you kind of feel, oh, what's next? You know, what's next? And then you realize, you know, you win your election in November, you've got to start going to Tallahassee for committee meetings, like, you know, within a matter of weeks. And so you really have to hit the ground running and start developing your policy. You know, you might have run on some issues, and you realize you get to Tallahassee, you might be in the minority, you might have to shift how you position yourself and talk about different issues.
So when did you know that, at what point during that race you knew that you were going to win? You just felt?
You know what, I never felt that way. I never took it for granted. I was, even on the last day of that election, Pastor, trying to win votes. I remember the last polling place that I was at was the Jimmy B. Keel Library up in North Tampa. And there were a couple young men who were coming to vote, and it was like 6:59, and the polls closed at 7 o'clock. And I was like, run! And I was running beside them like, you can do it, you can make it. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, are those 2 votes going to make a difference? But you never know. I never took anything for granted.
Okay. Now, you're a busy person. Hobbies. Tell me about your hobbies. What you do for fun?
I really love to cook.
Oh, you cook? Okay.
I love to cook. But I'm the type of cook. I mean, I can cook all the soul food too, but I love to just find a new recipe and try to push myself to learn something new. I also, what else? Oh, I love to read. I love to read. I love to spend time with my family. I have 5 nieces and a nephew, so I love to spend time with them also.
Cooking bring fun to you?
It does.
Yeah,
I like to cook.
Okay. Now, if you had one wish, what would that be?
It would be, at the risk of sounding like a beauty queen, it would actually be peace.
Peace.
I would love to see us not have any more wars. I would love for us to solve for hunger. I would love for us to use all of these wonderful and abundant resources that we have and share those with others and figure out how we can live amongst each other in peace.
In peace, in peace, Now, what are some of the early mistakes you made in life, in your career, that you had to overcome?
Yeah. Trying to be a perfectionist. And I talk to young people about this, right? Like because what'll happen is it'll put too much pressure on yourself, and you'll be so concerned about the outcome of a thing, you completely miss the journey that's going on around you. So yeah, I encourage people, young people especially, always do your best, but understand that your self-worth does not derive from how you perform in any particular situation. You have to know your worth.
Now, what is a typical day for you? From 8 to 5, 8 to 12, 8 to 9? You
know, there's really no such thing as a typical day, but if I were to stitch together a few examples, it might look like this. Like I might start off the day in the law firm, and if it's a day where it's law firm day and I'm being a lawyer, then I will just try to focus on that. And then there are other days where I'm in my legislative office and I will just focus on that. I will meet with constituents from about 9 in the morning until about 5 o'clock at night, and then usually I have an event in the evening. And then there are other days where I'm a candidate and I'm on the phone, you know, trying to do the candidate thing, raising money, building my campaign, helping other candidates. So it's really hard to have a typical day.
All right. So when you finished Georgetown Law School, did the law firm recruit you from Georgetown, or did you apply? How did that work?
Actually, so when I graduated from law school, I clerked for a federal judge in Orlando for about a year and a half. So I had a clerkship, and that was an incredible experience, getting to work for a federal judge and watch federal trials up close. And then from there, I got recruited to Carlton Fields in Tampa.
Now, explain, when you say clerkship for my audience, what is clerkship?
So when you're a clerk, when you're a law clerk, you're kind of like the lawyer for the judge, meaning that if the judge has an issue before her and she needs to write an opinion and make a ruling, as the clerk, you get to go and do the research and make a recommendation on what the law says. You talk it through with the judge, and then you get to actually write up the draft of the opinion based on what your judge thinks and how they want to decide. Yeah.
Okay. If you could trade places with one person, who would that be?
That's super easy, just for a day though, right?
One day.
One day, okay,
right.
because I do love my life and I'm grateful for everything. But honestly, it would be Beyonce, and I will tell you why.
Beyonce?
It would be Beyonce because, so I love to dance. I love to dance. I love music and I love to dance. And to me, she is still just so on top of her game as a performer. Right. I would love to just dance like she does for a day.
So my daughter loves Beyonce. So Janet Jackson, Beyonce. So Beyonce, in terms of performance, entertainment. So Beyonce, hands down, Beyonce?
I don't know, because Janet, I've seen her in concert as well.
Yes.
But maybe Janet on that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, what has been your biggest loss in life?
So everybody knows the story of me being the first Black student elected student government, but what they don't know is that just the year before that, I ran as vice president with somebody else, with Chris King, who actually was the lieutenant governor candidate for Florida in 2018. We went to college together, friends, and so we ran Chris as president, me for VP, and we lost by fewer than 100 votes. And it was a very heated race. Like, things got really aggressive in that race to be a student government race, man. And it was a tough time. It was a really tough time. How nasty it got. It taught me a lot about human nature and a lot about the nature of campaigns.
People can't get nasty.
Yeah. So I lost, but then if I'm honest, like I put it on my heart to run for president anyway. And so I was being disobedient when I ran for vice.
See?
Right. And so then I had to come back the next year and run. And so I'm glad that I did, because it worked out. But sometimes when you suffer a defeat, it's just life telling you not right now.
Not right now.
And you just have to come back stronger the next time.
Okay. Now, what are you most proud of?
Most proud of? I'll tell you about a bill that I was able to get passed on behalf of the Florida Legislative Black Caucus. I led our policy effort, but it was very much a collective effort. It's House Bill 7051. It's a police reform bill. And so, again, in the wake of everything that happened after the murder of George Floyd, community looks to us as lawmakers, what are you going to do about it? So we were able to put forth legislation, and I was able to help lead negotiations on that. It's going to limit the use of chokeholds. It's going to create, officers will now have to be trained that they have a duty to intervene if they see another officer engaging in behavior that looks like use of excessive force. So to me, I'm very proud of that, because it is in direct response to what our constituents were asking us to do, and hopefully it can help save a life and open the door to greater talks about police reform in the future.
All right. Have anyone recruited you to go to the next level in terms of politics, governor, president?
I appreciate that vote of confidence, Pastor Webb. But right now, so I am the leader designate. Basically, that just means like I'm in line. I'm like second in line to be able to take charge of the Florida House of my caucus, the Democratic caucus. And so I'm very glad about that. I'll be the first Black woman to do that. Right. I feel like I have very important work to do there. So I just try to stay focused on that.
Right. The young lady, Val Demings.
Val Demings.
Mm-hmm. You met her? Have you met her before?
Congresswoman Val Demings is amazing. So I have met her. I'm honored to call her my sorority sister, and as a member of Delta Sigma Theta. And yes, we've met. We actually just about a week or so ago got to spend some time together in Lakeland at their NAACP Freedom Fund dinner, where she was the headliner, and I was also asked to bring some remarks, and she's just amazing.
Awesome. Okay. Now, how has God played a role in your success?
God plays a huge role in my success, because my faith really is my foundation. And so I would say, if I had to distill it down, I mean, first of all, it is faith, right? To be able to believe in Him, to understand who I am in Him, and be able to relate to the world in that way. Also in terms of strength, and also in terms of perseverance, because life is not always easy. You don't always get what you want. You don't always succeed on the first try. But if you have that faith and you understand who you are and whose you are, it makes it just makes you that much more prepared to go out and try again.
Right. And some politicians don't talk about God. So how do you feel about that? They kind of shy away from, when we bring up God, they get nervous. I mean,
right. I suppose it's different for everybody, and everybody's faith walk is a little bit different. For me, I was raised in the church, and so it's just a part of my story. So I guess maybe I grew up more comfortable in that space, but listen, I understand I represent constituents who may have a different faith background than mine, and that's fine. People might find their own way to access their own spirituality, and I understand that too.
Right. So as a pastor, what should the church should be doing in terms of putting the word out about politics? Because some folks don't believe in mixing both, but I do. I think you got to share the information. So should churches do more of that, you believe?
You know, I think that the Black church in particular really still has a critical role to play when it comes to making sure that our community is civically engaged. So I know during election season it's a lot. Everybody wants to come by and talk. But I think that's actually a good thing, because we want the folks who are running for office to feel accountable to the Black community, right? And coming to church is a great way to do that. The Souls to the Polls is phenomenal. I was so glad to see that continue even during COVID times. We have got to make sure that our people vote. And you know I sit here from my own party, but I just mean this in terms of democracy. I am concerned that our democracy is under attack. And if we didn't understand that it was fragile before, what happened on January 6th there was an armed insurrection at the nation's capital should teach us that it's very fragile, but it's ours, and we should all feel that ownership. And so I commend you as a pastor for making sure that your congregation knows its duty as citizens of this country to stay educated and informed and engaged.
Well, since you brought up the 6th, and people try to downplay that, like it was something, a boys club gathering, but that was danger.
Yeah, I would say some people try to downplay that. I would say that most people look at that and understand that it's not okay, and that, you know, we have laws for a reason. We have the rule of law for a reason, meaning that no man is above the law, and we also have a democratic process when it comes to our elections. And the peaceful transfer of power is something that is critical to any democracy, and especially to American democracy. And so when that was put in jeopardy because one side didn't like the outcome of the election, you know, we can't stand for that. We can't have it. So we have to be very, very careful about our democracy. I feel like it is still resilient and we were able to survive that, but we can't have more of that going forward. We need the people to be engaged and to vote.
All right. So what keeps you up at night? You're attorney, you're politician, you're active, you cook. So what keeps you up at night? What keeps you worried and keep the head turning?
The sort of issues, you know, it's just that. It's the fate of our democracy, and it's the current state of it. I worry about it because now what happens, you know, when we were growing up, most people would read the newspaper every day or they would get the nightly news, and so you would get your news from a more unbiased source. Now people get a lot of their messaging from social media, or they get it from, you know, some places that have news in the title, but it's really just all editorial. It's really just all opinion. And so it's creating this divide where it makes us hard to come together. Sometimes you feel like you can't even talk to people if they have views different from you or yours are different from them. So I worry about that at night, and I think a lot as my role as an elected official in terms of what I can do to try to bring the temperature down and try to bring us back together.
All right. Who was your mentor growing up?
Oh man, I had some incredible mentors. I mean, aside from my parents, who were excellent role models and showed me a strong work ethic, I had some incredible teachers who guided me along the way. One, Mrs. Rubel McDaniel, was my science teacher, and Miss McDaniel didn't play that. She could tell if you were smacking gum, you were sitting in the third row, but her back was to you, and she was, you know, writing on the chalkboard. And so she always pushed me to be excellent. And then there was another teacher, Christopher Taylor, who pushed me towards government. And he saw that I had a passion for it. And he had me apply to that program that I was telling you about, Florida Girl State, and many others that helped put me on this trajectory in life.
All right, okay. Well, Driskell, as we bring this to a close, any closing remarks you'd like to leave them out? Any powerful remarks, any phrases, any, what you call this?
Like catchphrases, or
that you want, anything special you want to leave with us?
My closing remarks would be this, and I know that sometimes life, it feels really heavy right now. You know, wear a mask, don't wear a mask. Get vaccinated, don't get vaccinated. Everybody's angry and temperatures are high. But there's a quote by Dr. King that I love, and he says that the moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And I love that because it's just that reminder that, you know, we're going through a really tough time right now, but just remember that if we stick together, we can get closer to that more perfect union, get closer to that justice, get closer to it. We just have to hunker down and stay in there, stay in the fight, because we're in it together.
Okay. Last but not least, what's the best talk show in the land?
Oh, that is easy. A Word with Pastor Webb.
Thank you, my sister. And to my listening audience, may God bless you real good.